In this video, I'm going to be sharing 3 food swaps that you can make to your diet to help you support your hormones. Now, if you're brand new here, hello and welcome. My name is Jermaine. I'm an integrative nutrition health coach who helps women to balance their hormones naturally. Before we dive into the food swaps, it's really important that we understand what we're trying to do as we meal plan and put together a diet that is hormone friendly. Okay, so there's 2 main goals here. The main thing on the one hand is to keep inflammation low, and then on the other hand, we're also trying to make sure that we get in a lot of nutrients. Okay, so we do want to keep inflammation low simply because when inflammation is low, that means that HPA axis isn't being triggered repeatedly, and that also means that we're keeping cortisol low, and that is going to be beneficial for things like our insulin, estrogen, progesterone, and other hormones. So we want to make sure that we're keeping inflammation low, and then like I said, we also want to get in a lot of nutrients because those nutrients are important for everything that is going on in the body. Okay, so your liver and the detoxification that it's doing, every hormone producing gland also relies on nutrients to do its work. Every single process in the body relies on nutrients. And so if you're wondering, should I be taking in more vitamin D, vitamin E, more zinc, more magnesium? The answer is yes, yes, and yes to all of it. They're all important. Okay, so now let's dive into those 3 swaps. The first one is swapping cane sugar for date sugar. Okay, so when it comes to sweeteners, we generally hear about honey and maple syrup, and I definitely am a fan of both. But in this video, I want to talk about date sugar because I think sometimes it gets ignored. And date sugar is basically just dried dates that have been ground up into a powder. That's it. Okay, so basically what you're getting there is really just whole dry dates that are in a powder, which means you're getting the fiber that is normally in dates, and you're getting all the other nutrients that are in dates. So this is a pretty unusual, I would say, a nutritional profile for a sweetener. So there's not many sweeteners out there that will give you fiber, but date sugar certainly will. Okay, so this is something that you can use quite easily in baking. So I've used it before. The one thing to keep in mind when you're baking with it is that because it does have fiber, it will tend to absorb a little bit more moisture in your recipes. So you might want to compensate for that by maybe increasing the liquid portion of your recipes just a little bit, because like I say, it will soak up a little bit of the moisture. Okay, it does not dissolve necessarily as easily in water the way cane sugar does. Quite frankly, it doesn't behave the same way that cane sugar will, but in terms of flavor, you can easily do a 1-to-1 swap. So definitely experiment with date sugar and see if this is something that you would enjoy adding into your diet. Okay, the second swap is to switch from drinking soft drinks or pop to basically herbal tea. So I'm going to give you 2 options here. The first one is going to be hibiscus tea. So this is a tea that is great to drink at any time of the month, and it can help with a whole bunch of different things. So for example, if you're going through menopause and struggling with hot flashes, hibiscus can be quite beneficial for that. It's great for regulating blood pressure, and just also for menstrual support and for helping to ease some of the discomfort that can come with your menstrual cycle. Hibiscus is great. You can drink it plain, or if you find that the plain tea is too tart, that you could also just add some honey to it. Okay, so that's the first option. The second option is to drink oat straw infusion. Now, oat straw is an herb that is very, very rich in minerals, and it can be really great for just supporting the entire nervous system and just helping you to de-stress and relax in a very, very gentle and non-aggressive way. So this is really not a very strong herb, but with regular use, you can start to see that your nervous system is able to basically become a little bit more resilient and rebuild itself. Okay, so to make the infusion, you will need 1 ounce of the oat straw, and you can put that in a quart-sized jar and then fill that jar with hot water, let it sit overnight basically, and that will help you to extract as much of the nutrients that are in that oat straw as possible. Okay, so that is another option that is really good for replacing, like I said, soft drinks. And you could also put a little bit of honey in the oat straw if you want. Make sure it's raw honey. You won't need it necessarily because it has a very, very neutral taste. It's one of the few herbs that has a very pleasant flavor just on its own. So, but if you really do need a little bit of that sweetness to it, feel free to put in some raw honey. Okay, now on to the third and last swap, and this is to swap regular coffee for herbal coffee. Now, before I dive into this, I do want to say that coffee itself is not inherently bad, okay? But when we have hormonal imbalances, then again, we're trying to make sure that the adrenals in particular are not being maybe overworked. And unfortunately, for a lot of people, that caffeine and that coffee can definitely maybe overwork the adrenals and potentially lead to more production of cortisol. Okay, so for that reason, you want to consider switching, and you don't have to do a 100% switch necessarily, but you do want to start leaning more towards consuming more of those herbal coffees. So herbal coffee blends are usually going to be made with things like with cacao powder, with roasted dandelion root, and sometimes they're also made with chicory roots. That's another popular one. So those types of herbs, cinnamon will tend to appear in those blends. And then there's another category of herbal coffees that are made from adaptogenic mushrooms. Okay, so I did another video where I reviewed a powder that basically uses adaptogenic mushrooms. So I'm going to link to that video, that way you can get more information about those mushrooms. But basically, these are mushrooms that have adaptogenic properties, and not only do they help with supporting the HPA axis, but also they can be helpful when it comes to supporting the immune system. Okay, so that is what adaptogenic mushrooms will do for you. So again, if you switch to any one of these herbal blends, you're going to be getting a lot more in terms of nutrition from them, and just in terms of ingredients that are going to really help you to support the different pathways in the body that ultimately affect our hormones. Okay, I'm going to also link to a brand that you can look into for these coffees. So the brand is Rasa, and they have a variety of these herbal coffees. It's up to you to play around again and see which ones would be basically to your liking. So that does it for this video. I hope that you found this information helpful. And if you're looking for more nutritional tips that you can use to support your hormones, definitely check out some of the other videos on this channel. I will link to them in the cards as well as in the description below. Okay, so if you enjoyed this, I'd appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. And of course, feel free to share this with anybody else that would benefit from this information. If you have questions or feedback on this topic, don't hesitate to leave it below in the description section as well, or in the comments section as well, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Okay, in the meantime, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.